My name is ABEL, and I am going to teach you English language standard 7 based on the topic called describing process. And today we are going to discuss on the subtopic called passive voice and tenses. Yes, as you know that we cannot talk about passive voice without concerning with active voice. So it is active voice and passive voice with tenses in describing process. Yes, before proceeding with our lesson, let me give you the objectives of the topic. Let me start with the general objective of the topic. The general objective of the topic is, at the end of this topic, people should be able to use active voice and passive voice with tenses in describing process. And then, after explaining to you or giving you the general objective of the topic, now let me give you the specific objective. The specific objective of our lesson is, at the end of this presentation, pupils should be able to use active and passive voice in respective with types of present tense, especially in simple present tense, present continuous tense, and present perfect tense. Yes, after explaining to you the objectives of the topic, now let me start giving you introduction. The introduction of the lesson based on the meaning of tense. Yes, the first term of the topic is the word describing. The word describing is originated or is formed from the verb describe, which means to say or to write how something is described. Or sometimes you can say that describing is formed from the word describe, which means to tell or to just inform someone about the information. Yes, another word in the topic is process. A process is a series of actions. It's a series of actions when describing about a thing or when describing about a person. So when describing, we use different actions. These actions are called process. These actions are called process. And just why? You can see it is describing process because we use different actions in describing about something. Yes, let us see another theme of the topic, which is voice. When we talk about voice, means the form of the verb which indicates whether a person or a thing performs or does something, or something has been done to a person or a thing. Yes, in our day-to-day communication, we use voice when we deliver or when we send a message to someone. And this voice appeared in different forms. There is a time when the form of the verb indicates that someone performs or someone does the action to someone else. But there is a time when the verb form indicates that something or the action has been done to a person or to a particular thing. We said that a voice is divided into two categories, which are active voice and passive voice. And today, our topic is based on these two key terms, active voice and passive voice. We said that active voice is the form of voice when the verb form indicates that a person or a thing has done something, or a person does or performs a thing to a particular object or to a person. And then in active voice, the doer of the action is the subject. The doer of the action is the subject. Do you know the meaning of the subject? Subject refers to a person or a thing which performs or does the action in a sentence. Now, let us see some examples of sentences which are in active voice. Let us start with sentence number 1. Yes, can you read it? Yes, it is cats eat fishes. Cats eat fishes. As you can see, cats is the subject, eat is a verb, and fishes is an object. As I have said, when explaining the meaning of active voice, that active voice is when the verb form indicates that someone or a thing performs or does the action. So here, as you can see, the cat is the subject, refers to the subject which performs or does the action. Yes, what the action does the cat perform? The action which is performed by the cat is eating what? Fishes. Are we together? Yes. Let us see another example of sentence, which is Aisha cooks the meals. And then we have the subject Aisha, and we have the verb cooks. Then the last is an object. Then here, the word Aisha is a noun. Stands there to show that Aisha performs or does the action denoted by the verb in simple present form. In simple present form. And then we have the objective which receives the action from the subject Aisha. Then the third example is she is writing a letter. She is writing a letter. And then we have the subject she. We have the helping verb is. And we have the main verb in ing form, writing. And the last is a letter. So she is the subject, is a helping verb, and writing is a main verb in ing form. Then the last is an objective. So here she refers to someone who performs the action in a sentence. Then is, this one used as a helping verb, indicating the time of an action. And then this one is a main verb, which also indicates that this one, she, is performing the action to an objective, which is a letter. Yes, after we have seen the meaning of active voice with examples, now let us see the meaning of passive voice with examples of sentences. Yes, we said that passive voice is the form of voice when the verb form indicates that something has been done to the subject. The doer of the action in passive voice is the subject. Is the recipient of the action denoted by the verb in a sentence. Yes, so in passive voice, the doer of the action or subject is the recipient of the action denoted by the verb in a sentence. Let us see some examples of sentences which are in passive voice. Let me start with sentence number 1. Sentence number 1 is fishes are eaten by cats. Fishes are eaten by cats. As I have explained to you, that passive voice is when the verb form shows that something or the action has been done to a person or a thing, or something has been appended or is appended to a thing or a person. Now see, look at sentence number 1. Sentence number 1 is fishes are eaten by cats. We have fishes. This is the subject of the passive voice. This is the subject of the passive voice. And then these fishes is receiving the action. So fishes act like the receiver of the action, denoted by the helping verb are and main verb eaten in past participle form. And then we have the rusty, which is cats. The cat is an objective of the passive voice. The cat is the objective of the passive voice. Then let us see another example, which is number 2. Then example number 2 is the meals are cooked by Aisha. As you can see, we have the meals in active voice. In active voice, when I was explaining about active voice, the meals was an object, but here the meals is the subject, but the subject of the passive voice. It is receiving, so it is receiving the action denoted by the verb cooked in past participle form. But this main verb cooked is being heard by helping verb are. So the function of helping verb are here is to indicate that something is being happened to the subject of the passive voice. It is supporting the main verb, which is cooked in past participle form. And then we have Aisha. Aisha in active voice was the subject, but in passive voice it is an objective. So Aisha, it is an objective of the passive voice. Let us see the last example. It is a letter is being written by her. A letter is being written by her. We have the subject of the passive voice. So this word, a letter, is the subject of the passive voice. Then what comes after a letter is helping verb. Of the tense. The helping verb of the tense. Then after is, what comes is being. Being indicating that something is being done to the subject of the passive voice, but it is a progressive action. Just why we have put being, indicating that something is being done to the subject of the passive voice, but it is a progressive action. And then we have the main verb in past participle form, written. This is the main verb in past participle form, which is also indicate that something is being done to the subject of the passive voice. Then after we have seen the meaning of active and passive voice, now let us see the meaning of tense. In plural form it is tenses, and singular form is tense. Tense is a term used in grammar to indicate the time of an action or event. So we use tenses to explain about the time of an action or event in the language. In English language we have 3 main types of tenses, and these are. Let us start with a letter. Type number 1, which is indicated by letter A. Then the first type of tenses is present tense. And then we said that a present tense is a type of tenses which refers the action which takes place in the present time. It is divided into different classes we shall see in the coming expressions. But here we have some examples of sentences which are in present tense. We have the first sentence, which is he speaks English well. He speaks English well. You can see. Look at the sentence. We have the verb form indicating that the action takes place in present. Yes, but also we have sentence number 2. She writes very beautiful. She writes very beautiful. As you can see, also we have the verb rise. indicating that the action is done at present. And then we have another sentence which is they play football very well. They play football very well. Also, the verb play indicates that the action takes place in the present time. We sing a nice song. We sing a nice song. We have the verb sing. Also, the form of this verb indicating that the action is done in the present time. In the present time. Yes, we have another type of tenses which is past tense. Past tense. You can explain or give the meaning of past tense as the type of tenses which refers to the time, to the action which took place in the past time. So, when we talk about past tense, we form it using the verb in the past form. Yes, let us look the following examples of sentences which are in past tense. Look at sentence number 1. It is, I spoke to her for 2 hours. I spoke to her for 2 hours. We have the verb form spoke. This is the past form of the verb speak. So we use so when we make a sentence in the past form, we must use the verb form which is in the past form. Let us see another example. He went to Arusha last week. He went to Arusha last week. We have the verb went. The verb went is in the past form of the verb. It is the past form of the verb go. Then we have the third example. He drew a good picture yesterday. He drew a good picture yesterday. We have the verb drew. It is in the form of past form. It is the past form of the verb drew. Then the last is you ate too much food last night. You ate too much food last night. And then we have the verb ate. The verb ate indicates that the action took place in the past time. Now let us see another type of tenses which is future tense. We said that a future tense is a type of tenses which refers to the time which will take place in the future time or in the coming time. Or you can simply say that future tense is a type of tenses which refers to the time, to the action which will be done at in the future time or in the coming time. Yes, a future tense is formed with helping verb, shall, and will. Then plus the main verb in the base form of the verb, or you can say the first form of the verb. And let us see the following examples of future tense. And then we have sentence number 1. They will go to Mwanza tomorrow. They will go to Mwanza tomorrow. As I have said to you that a future tense is formed with shall or will plus the main verb in the base form or the first form of the verb. Then here we have will and we have the main verb go. We have will and the main verb go. You see? Can you look at this sentence? Yes. Will and go. And this is helping verb. I use it to this one. I use the to complete, to bring just the accomplishments. If you don't use will here, and then the sentence will not bring the comprehensions. You see? So here we have just put will to make the sentence brings a complete sense. And then let us see example number 2. I shall teach you English language. Do you have any question concerning this? Don't want that. Here we have used the will, and here why we have used the actually we use shall for the pronouns I and will, and then but also sometimes we use shall for obligatory actions, the actions which you must do in the future tense. But all of them are used to talk about the prediction. We're just predicting about the future. Yes, and then the third example is he will sing a nice song in the coming week. You see, we have the pronoun here, and then we have will. This is the helping verb, and we have seen the main verb in the first form or best form of the verb, and then a nice song in the coming week. The last is they will play football tomorrow. As I have said to you, that is formed with helping verb will or shall, then plus main verb in the first form. All of these are sentences which are in future tense. Yes, after you have seen three main types of tenses, now let us see some rules when changing active to passive voice. Yes, and you have to be very careful because you cannot change active to passive voice if you don't understand the rules for changing active voice to passive voice. But if you will put it, you will keep it in your mind, it will be very easy for you to change active voice to passive voice. So listen to me very carefully. Yes. We said that when changing active to passive voice, you should consider the following rules. Do you know the meaning of rules? Rules are just principles, of course. Are just principles or guidelines when you are doing or just performing a certain activity. So here, these rules will help you when changing active voice to passive voice. So the first rule, or rule number one, is about to identify. It is to identify the subject, verb, and the objective. So here you have to make sure that in your sentence there are three components of sentences. There are three components of the sentences, meaning that subject, verb, and objective. Yes, as it has been explained here, you have to know if there are three main components of the sentence. Yes, now just look at the example here. It is Juma writes a letter. It is Juma writes a letter. Yes, look at it. It is S-V-O. It is S-V-O. Then S stands for subject, and V stands for verb, and O stands for object. So you have already realized that there are three components of the sentence. And then after you have realized that there are three components of the sentence, you rush to another step or to another rule. What you have to do in rule number two. In rule number two, you have to change the subjective. You have to change the subjective into objective and vice versa. This vice versa means you can change subjective to objective, or you can change objective to subject. That's the meaning of vice versa. Now let us see examples here. Example number one, it is this one. He is the food. The sentence is in active voice. He is the food, and it is a simple present tense sentence. So now let us see how can we change. Remember this rule: change the subject into object. Now let us see how can we change subject into objective. He is the food. He is the food. The food is eaten by him. The food is eaten by him. There, subject into object. So here, the subject he has been changed into objective him. So this one is the subject. This one is the subject of the active voice, but this one is the subject of the passive voice. While in active voice was an objective. You get me well? So this one, here it is the subject of the passive voice. But in active voice, it was an object, so it is an object of the active voice. And then him has been changed from he. He is the subject of the active voice. So the objective case of he, it is him. Do you get me well? Yes. Let us see another example. Yes, another example is we have John plays football. It is in active voice. Then when we change it into passive voice, it will be the football is played by John. The football is played by John. Remember, we are just talking about rule number 2, which is about to change the subject into objective and object into subjective. So here, John plays football. John has become the object, of the passive voice, while football has become the subject of the passive voice. You see? Do you remember what I told you? I told you that in passive voice, the subject is the receiver or recipient of the action denoted by the verbs. You get me well? I don't want to explain more because I'm just explaining about rule number 2, which is about to change the subject into object. And then what you have to note here is HV stands for helping verb, and this one stands for main verb in this sentence. Yes, let us see another rule when changing active voice sentences into passive voice sentences. The rule number 3 is about to put the short-term helping verb or verb to be, or you can say auxiliary verb. Yes, my friend, what you have to note is when you change active voice sentences into passive voice sentences, make sure that you put a suitable helping verb. You're not supposed to put any helping verb. You have to put a helping verb according to the type of tenses which you are concerning with or which you are dealing with. Yes, for example, if the sentence is in present tense, but remember, the present tense divided into 4 main classes, but we're just dealing with 3 types of each main type of the tenses. I will explain to you why we are not dealing with the 3rd type of tenses when changing active voice sentences to passive voice sentences. Yes, so here when the sentence is in present tense, you have to use helping verbs which are is, is been, and has or have been. Then if the sentence is in past tense, use helping verbs which are was, were, was being, were being, and had been. What you have to keep in your mind that this past tense divided into different types of tenses. You see? So past tense, for example, simple past tense. If it is simple past tense, you will have to use was and were. If it is past perfect, you will have to use had, which it is had been. You will have to use had been. If it is past continuous, you will have to use was or were been. Yes, so you will have to put the strict term helping verb according to the type of tenses you are dealing with. Then, if the sentence is in future tense, you have to use helping verb will be or will have been. Will be or will have been. So these are two helping verbs which are used with future tense, especially when changing active voice to passive voice. Yes, we are still proceeding with rules when changing active voice to passive voice. And then rule number 4, you have to change the main verb into past participle form. Change the main verb into past participle form. And remember a very special verb form which is used when changing active to passive voice. It is a verb in past participle form. And yes, listen to the following expression. We said that only third form of the verb or past participle should be used as a main verb in passive voice as it has been shown in sentences above. Yes, as you have seen in some sentences above, actually you have seen the main verb in past participle form. Now look at the following. For example, eat. So when the main verb used in the active voice, it is eat. Then when you change it into passive voice, will be eaten. And then when the main verb used in active voice is drink, then passive voice will be drunk. And then if the main verb used in active voice is cook, then passive voice will be cooked. And the last rule is add the preposition by. Is to add the preposition what? By. If the sentence comprises the object. You know, you will find that sometimes you will find that there is sometimes you will find that there is no object in the sentence. So there is no need to use a preposition by. Yes, the function of a preposition by in passive voice sentences to show the known or unknown. The known or unknown. A known person or a thing which is performing the action. In some cases, you cannot find the object in sentences. For that case, there is no need of adding a preposition by. You don't need to add a preposition by. And that's why I have already told you that the first rule you have to realize whether there are 3 components of the sentence or there is not. Then the rules which have been explained above can be revealed in the following active and passive voice expressions. And now, the rules which we have already explained there, let us see their application when changing active voice to passive voice sentences. Let us start with present tense. Then here, it is the meaning of present tense. This refers to the time of an action taking place at the present. But we have said that present tense divided into different branches or classes. Let us see them. Yes, these are classes of present tense. We have simple present tense, present continuous tense, present perfect tense, and present perfect continuous tense. Let me start explaining or giving you the meaning of simple present tense, and then we shall see some examples of sentences which are in simple present tense with active voice. Then we shall change them into passive voice. We said that a simple present tense refers to the time of an action which takes place regularly. Regularly means the action takes place at the interval of time. It can be after every hour, it can be after every day, after a day, or after a week. So it is a repeatable action. So regular means the action which is done many times repeatedly. The structure of passive voice in simple present tense is subject plus helping verb, which are is, plus main verb in past participle form. You see, we have helping verb. Do you remember that rule that you must put the suitable helping verb? And the helping verb which are used in simple present tense are is, and am. And then plus main verb in past participle form. Yes, but what you have to note here is that you have to use a helping verb according to the subject which has been used. If the subject which has been used is in or indicating the priority, you have to use the verb which will be agree in number, which will agree in number with the subject. Then let us see. Yes, we have the sentences in active voice, but in simple present tense. Then these sentences are in active voice. We shall change them into passive voice. Let us start with sentence number 1. He writes a letter. Do you remember rule number 1? It is all about to rearrange the components of the sentence. Yes, of course, we have the subject, we have the verb, and we have an object. Then it is ready to change the sentence into active voice. And when we change it into passive voice, will be a letter. A letter is written by him. A letter is written by him. We have already exchanged the subject into object. The subject he has been changed into object him. So him is an object of the passive voice, while a letter is the subject of the passive voice. Do you understand? Do you get me? Yes. Then see what comes after the subject of the passive voice. It is a helping verb is. Do you know the function of a helping verb is? It is to indicate the time of an action. The time of an action, but also it indicates that the action is done to the subject of the passive voice. So has got two functions. The first is to indicate time of an action, and then the second is to indicate that the action.
Sasa afadhali ungesimamisha mkuu wangu hivi. Imekuwa mzima. Hii inabidi ukopi.